Hey everyone, so I'm gonna talk to you about retinol today, and I'm gonna give it to you very, very honestly and very directly because this single skincare ingredient is by far the most important, mandatory, and powerful component of your skincare routine. And if you're not using it, you're truly missing out. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Karam, board certified facial plastic surgeon and founder and creator of KaramMD Skin. I specialize in facial rejuvenation, which basically means I help people look as young as they feel. And on today's episode of Skin School, we're gonna talk about retinol and why I'm so incredibly passionate and feel so strongly about this single ingredient and how it has to have a place in your skincare routine if you are serious about anti-aging and skincare. We're gonna talk about some science, we're gonna talk about some practical application issues, some mistakes that people make and some myths around it, and ultimately help you find a solution to include this in your routine in a way that's going to help you preserve your skin if you're young enough to be watching this and you're in your 20s and 30s, and if you're anywhere in your 40s and 50s and beyond, how retinol is gonna play a huge role in restoring your skin. You're gonna understand this so clearly when we break down the science and go forward with the other components. All right, folks, so hang tight, let's get into it. All right, so the science of retinol. So gotta understand, retinol is a vitamin A derivative, right? It's a naturally organic compound that comes from vitamin A. Vitamin A in and of itself is not biologically active in skin. There's a series of enzyme reactions that happen to get vitamin A to a place where it actually has an impact on the skin. Commercially, we recognize that retinol, or the category of vitamin A derivatives that have an impact on skin, things like retin A and retinol, are part of a class called retinoids. Now, these compounds basically are 1 or 2 steps closer to having an effect on skin. And that's what makes them so important, because if you just put vitamin A, let's say hypothetically, vitamin A from your carrot or whatever, rub it on your skin, it's not gonna do anything. It has to be in a biological level that it's gonna enter your skin and then exert an impact. And what impact does that exert? The impact that these retinoids affect are at the level of the DNA. So what happens is you put topical retinols on your skin, it gets taken up through the fatty membrane of the stratum corneum, which is the top layer of your epidermis. Then it makes its way down into the dermis. Now, why is that so important? Because number one, I just said that it gets absorbed by your skin. It needs to make its way through. A lot of molecules that you put on your skin never even get to the actual part of the skin because they're too big to travel through the skin. Retinoids and retinol, which is the category that we're talking about here, absolutely make it through. Number two, they have to make it to the dermis. The dermis is where the fibroblasts, the keratinocytes, what are those cells? Those cells are the ones that create collagen. Those are the cells that create elastin. So those are the cells that are basically forming the structure of your skin. The entire substance of your skin is made of collagen and elastin. The function of the skin in terms of its resilience, meaning its elasticity, is formed by elastin and collagen. So these are very, very important components that need to be biologically active, meaning that your fibroblasts and your keratinocytes need to be producing collagen and elastin for your skin to functionally remain young. Now, here's the caveat. As we age, starting in our mid-20s and 30s and beyond, the production of collagen and elastin begin to diminish year after year after year. Now, I can't stress why this is so important enough, because when you look at old skin, it's thin, it's crepey, it's weak, it's lined and wrinkled, right? It looks totally different than when you look at, say, a 20-year-old skin. The reason is that skin of a young person is packed with collagen, elastin. It brings in moisture through hyaluronic acid. It is supple and thick. Aging skin, thin. The dermis begins to break down. So the absolute critical component of trying to keep your skin looking young or restoring your skin to looking young is all about the production of these important molecules, collagen and elastin. Now, without them, you don't have an anti-aging skincare regimen. You simply don't. So having said that, the name of the game, the absolute foundational approach to anti-aging skincare is to turn on those cells and keep them producing collagen and keep them producing elastin, even when you are aging and the natural biological process is diminishing those. So once this retinoid product gets into the dermis, it gets its way inside of a cell. When it goes inside of the cell, there's receptors in there that bind to these retinoids and they take it into the nucleus of the cell. What's the nucleus of the cell? Well, the nucleus of the cell is where all the DNA exists. Why is DNA important? Because DNA is what produces everything that our cell produces. So by the retinoids getting into the cell and then getting into the nucleus and then turning on the genes that produce collagen and elastin, the net effect is those fibroblasts and keratinocytes start producing the important molecules that they did when they were young, right? That's the whole idea. So basically you're turning on what is naturally wanting to turn off. This is so key and so critical because, like I said, without the input, your skin becomes thinner and thinner and thinner as time goes on. And as a result, functionally aging, right? So this category of an ingredient that has a biological and molecular impact on skin is, we kind of broadly term it as is biologically active or active molecules, right? Or active ingredients. And this is an important thing to keep in mind just in terms of semantics and vocabulary. But none of that should matter so much as knowing that and trusting the fact that you are putting something on your skin that's having an impact. So now, here's the question, why should you trust it? Well, last I checked, there was close to and maybe over 100,000 articles written on retinoids and their impact in clinical studies. And by the way, it's been around literally for, I don't even know, time flies because my career is kind of like flying through. And I just remember years and years ago, I remember the original studies were somewhere like 40 years ago. By now it's probably 50 to 60 years ago that the original studies were done. And a lot of them were actually, discovered by accident. When they were using retinoids to treat acne, they found that when you look at it, the skin actually looks a little bit thicker. And then they understood that, years later, that what's actually happening is this biological upturn of collagen and elastin. And then they decided, oh yeah, so retin A, which was originally used a lot for acne treatments, has a value in anti-aging. So it suddenly became this component where prescription retin A that was normally used for acne was now being prescribed. And I did this all the time 20 years ago when I first started, writing prescription retin A as a component of an anti-aging regimen. So people would go get it at the pharmacy and put it on their skin and you'd see the impact. And here's some additional benefits that retinol has, by the way. Number one, stimulate collagen and elastin. Number two, decrease the degradation, meaning the breakdown of existing collagen in your skin by inhibiting these metalloproteinases that are basically the enzymes that break down these things. So decrease the degradation. Decrease pigment production. It improves pigmentation. It also helps improve the skin barrier. You've heard a lot about the skin barrier. I've done talks and videos on it, but the skin barrier is basically what, the function of the skin barrier is what protects the body from the external world. So having a functional skin barrier is really important. But here's the other piece that's so important about that, is that what it is also doing is it preventing the loss of water through your skin, the transepidermal water loss, and has a huge role in that. It also improves skin cell turnover by turning skin cells over. It also has a micro peeling effect that can take away some of that, rough stuff on the outer surface of the skin. So if you think about it, it pretty much does everything. It has a role in a lot of different aspects of skin health and skin anti-aging. Therefore, it makes perfect sense to include it in your regimen. Here's a few caveats. Number one, challenge of retin A is that it's high concentration. The concentration of these prescription products are pretty strong, meaning that they're not designed for anti-aging, they were designed for acne. So what ends up happening is you put these onto your skin, the skin typically has issues with redness, flaking, swelling, just irritation. We call it the purging phase, right? And it lasts anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. Here's the problem with it. I've rarely met a patient, excluding my wife, who's been consistent with Retin-A since her 30s, and now she's 52. And if you look at her skin looks unbelievable. She's gotten off of the prescription stuff, and now she's on, for example, the trifecta, which has retinol in it. The point is, she's been on a retinoid for over 15 years, right? And you look at her skin looks amazing. Every single patient I've ever had, and I'm not exaggerating, who's in their 70s and their skin looks unbelievable, the questions I always ask, I ask everyone, like, oh wow, your skin looks great, what have you been doing? It comes down to two basic things. Sun protection, they've always been on retinols, period. Just 30 years, 40 years, they've been on it. They've been on it consistently and on it, and their skin literally at age 70 looks like a 20-something-year-old skin. Unfortunately, the challenge that you have as a patient, as a consumer, is that when you go out and you say, all right, great idea, I love this idea, I've heard about it, I'm gonna go get some retinol and put it on my skin. Problem is, you put it on every single day, within a few days, your skin starts, pushing back at you. So what do? You say, geez, I can't go out like this. I can't look like this. I can't, have my eyelids look like they're all dried and crinkled up and my face is all red and flaky and all this kind of, basically you're going through a downtime. Most people can't do a downtime. So what do? They back off. They back off on the retinols. And my typical experience with people is they do it like twice a week, 3 times a week, once a week, or they quit it altogether because they said it's too harsh on my skin's too sensitive, which it is. I don't blame anyone who goes through that, because the reality is, even if you were to dedicate yourself and say, all right, I'm gonna put my head in the sand and just go through 2 weeks of all the redness that goes along with it, and then your skin acclimates, and on the other end, your skin looks pretty, it's like, now it's fine, it's cruising. But then what happens if you go get a chemical peel, or you go get a laser, or you get, something that you have to do to your skin, go get a hydrofacial? Well, then you're asked to stay off of the retinols. And as a result of that, you stay off, your skin goes back to baseline in terms of its response. Then what ends up happening is you have to go through the entire purging and redness and all that other stuff again. So this kind of like on and off cycle is too much for most people to tolerate. 100% understand that, people have lives to live. You gotta look presentable. You can't always be looking red and all this other stuff. I did an entire video, like a couple videos on retinol, mistakes that people make, how you should use it, etc. Make sure you watch those videos. They're on my channel. They go into a more depth, and I might brush on them a little bit here, but I'm not gonna go into total detail and repeat the things that are on those videos. Those are great videos. You should definitely take a look at it. So here's some practical tips in terms of what you can do, with retinols to basically manage it, essentially. The studies that have been done on retinol have never identified a threshold dose, meaning that say, okay, you need to be on this concentration of retinol or Retin-A in order for it to have an impact. Nothing has ever been done. In fact, the commercial range of retinols can go anywhere from like 0.0015 all the way to 0.5. I mean, it's a huge range of concentrations. What I have found is the most important thing is not the concentration of the retinol that you're on, but the fact that you're on it and you're using it constantly and consistently. The most important aspect. So what I generally recommend is that you go on the lowest concentration you can get and tolerate. So what I did when I was developing the trifecta, for example, I knew for a fact I wasn't gonna create a anti-aging skincare regimen that didn't include retinol. So Illuminate, which is the third step, includes a retinol in it. But my challenge with the lab was I needed it to be tolerable for everyone. That was a big thing because the feedback I was getting from all my patients was it's just too much, I can't do it. So my challenge to the chemists at the laboratory was basically, let's put retinol in this, but let's make it tolerable. So what we did was we split dosed it, meaning you get a microdose in the evening and a microdose in the daytime. So you're not getting all of it on your skin at one time. This is totally different than how usual retinol is used. Number two, we encapsulated it so that instead of it just dumping into your skin all at once, it's slowly releasing to your skin, allowing your skin to acclimate and manage it. Now it's a lighter dose of retinol, but my opinion about it is that if you're using a lighter dose consistently, daily, it's far more beneficial than if you're using a strong dose once or twice a week. In fact, we did clinical studies that showed the skin is showing signs of improvement with fine lines and wrinkles and firmness and suppleness. But let me just say this, you don't use retinoids because you're trying to get an effect in a month. You're not trying to look better in 2 months. You use retinols because you recognize, based on the studies that I've just explained to you, the mechanism of action, that it is in your best interest to be on it, and you're on it for life. That's it, it's that simple. Because whatever impact it has in terms of turning on that machinery and improving collagen, well, guess what happens when you stop? It all just goes back to baseline. And your baseline as you age is lower and lower and lower. So you have to stay on it. And what you have to do when you're basically, this consistency concept is you have to expect and have faith in the process that your skin's gonna look better 10 years from now because you've been on retinols for 10 years. Your skin's gonna look better 20 years from now because you've been on retinol for 20 years. So if you don't use the trifecta, for example, I know many of you do, but if you don't, then go seek a low concentration retinol that you can tolerate. Many of them are being used at nighttime, which is totally fine. Make sure you use it alongside with some sun protection because your skin might be a little bit more sensitive, and be willing to kind of push forward. Now, some of the things to look for is like an encapsulated or a compound type of retinol that is slow release and doesn't all hit your skin all at once. In addition, the other important cousin, it has a lot of the same basic qualities as retinol does, is vitamin C. You want to use that in addition to retinol. That's a very powerful 1-2 punch. That's why I made it an entire second step in the trifecta with Quench. Vitamin C and retinol work synergistically for the skin. And there's a lot of rumors out there that you can't use vitamin C and retinol at the same time. That's complete hogwash. You can absolutely use retinol and vitamin C at the same time, and you should. And you should do it, but again, based on the formulations and all that stuff, they can be sometimes too heavy and hard on your skin. And that is something that, again, I tried to solve for with my products. You need to, if you don't use the products, then you need to, experiment and find combinations that work well for you. But believe me when I say this, you do not want to be without retinol and frankly, even vitamin C in your skincare regimen. So that idea that they don't marry well together is complete BS. You need them together if you're gonna be serious about anti-aging. And if you do get that irritation that comes along with it, stick with it, give it 2-3 weeks, your skin will acclimate. A couple other kind of tips and pearls are use it on your lower eyelids. Like I use, a product all the way on my lower lids, which I feel is so important because that skin is thinner. If any skin really needs to be beefed up, it's that skin. Additionally, if you can get a low concentration retinol, you can also use it on your neck because your neck skin is also very thin and it really is a continuation of your facial skin. Last thing you want is really young looking facial skin and old looking neck skin. So for example, when I use the trifecta, it's eyelids, face, and neck. A lot of people have a hard time with full strength, meaning like the typical strength retinols on their neck. Just FYI, that might not be an area where you can acclimate to. So you really, really want to find a very light dose that you can use on your skin. And unfortunately, I can't say which companies or which brands have that because I frankly don't know. I mean, you got to do your research, and I'm just giving you sort of general directions on how you can understand that, and so that you recognize what's happening to your skin, but also don't become afraid of what is gonna, what your skin's going through when it is going through. There's nothing wrong with it. It just needs to acclimate. Now, here's kind of a warning thing. There's a lot of like celebrity skincare products. There's a lot of big name brands that have skincare products that are in the anti-aging category. Folks, you can make skin look a little bit better by hydrating it and doing all that kind of stuff to it, but it doesn't mean that the skin is actually changing in the way that I described in terms of increasing those molecular changes over time. Take a second and look at the ingredients. If you don't see retinol in there, question what you're even doing, because I'm telling you, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, you're wasting your energy, because every year that goes by that you're not actually working towards making your skin look younger, there's an opportunity cost there because your skin is actually getting older at the structural and molecular level. Does that make sense? So that's the thing I want you to keep in mind is you're fighting time with these type of things, and the longer and earlier you get on them, the better off you'll be in the long run. That's huge. So be very wary of expensive moisturizers or expensive growth serums or a bunch of peptides, or it's a bunch of growth factors and this and that, and all these like keywords and exosomes and stem cells and blah, blah, blah. Great. Are you willing to bet your skin on stuff that hasn't been studied, that hasn't been shown to make this type of molecular impacts over 40, 50 years? I guarantee you there's no other product, there's no other category that has been studied the way retinols have over these years. So that's huge. For me, I'm not willing to take that risk. For me, I'm not willing to take that chance because I want to see my skin get better with age, at least not age, as opposed to play around with like fancy, novel ideas and then realized 5 years from now that that was complete, worthlessness, and then I ended up wasting 5 years of anti-aging. That's the thing that you guys got to get through in your minds when you think about this. One final sort of thing. Now, if you're like, hey, there's no way I'm gonna do a retinol. Doesn't matter, light retinol, full strength retinol, it doesn't matter. What can I do? You need to stimulate collagen, then do so by injuring your skin. Nothing wrong with microneedling, light chemical peels, lasers, all of these things, they create an injury to your skin, cause the skin to get stimulated and build collagen. That is the workaround retinol use. But the key is you have to use it on a regular basis, meaning that you have to go in every 6 weeks or so and get microneedling, light chemical peel, etc. A little bit more expensive, obviously, a little bit more downtime associated with that. You're gonna have a day or so, 2 days maybe of redness and downtime, but you can stimulate collagen and improve the skin structure, without using retinol if you're doing these sort of other in-office based procedures or treatments. But here's the thing, if you're doing it like once a year or twice a year, not doing anything. You gotta do it regularly. And if you're really gung-ho, like my wife, Netta, who's like super, super devoted to her skin, well, she'll do the skincare aspects and she'll do the in-office treatments in addition. In our case, it's obviously very easy. She just comes into my office and gets, microneedling done every 8 weeks or so. A lot of people in our office do those type of things. And I'm not saying radio frequency microneedling. I'm just talking about straight, simple, needle-based microneedling that just is poking a bunch of holes in your skin that makes your skin say, oh, I got injured, I need to build collagen in response to that. Does that make sense? I want you guys to recognize that molecular approach, retinol, non-molecular approach, injuring the skin externally. Both of them reaching, this sort of thing, but additionally, retinol has other molecular effects that injuring your skin doesn't. Like I mentioned, discoloration, decreasing the breakdown of collagen, all these other things that are not gonna happen with just simply doing the external stuff. But nevertheless, you can improve your overall skin with that without doing retinol if you're dead set against it. Chances are, if you find the right retinol, you won't be dead set against it. And a final point is about concentration. And I alluded to it before, I'm just gonna say it very straight right now. Don't worry about using the strongest. There was a period of time when, even my wife was like, oh, I gotta start at this level, then graduate to this level, then graduate to that level. You don't need to go there. That's not really necessary. What's really necessary is getting the product on your skin and being able to do it. So whatever concentration works for you, even if it's a very, very, very light concentration, is better than none. But consistency and continuity are necessary. Once or twice a week isn't gonna cut it. So forget the concentration aspects of it, just find one that works for you. Use it in addition with moisturizer because sometimes that dryness irritates a lot. So if you can keep it moisturized, the skin will be happier, especially during those 2-3 weeks that it's getting used to it. By the way, everything I ever say about skin starts with sun protection because the #1 accelerator of skin aging is the sun. So at any of my videos related to the skin or anti-aging, know that sun protection is paramount. All right, folks, that is, in my opinion, the most important skincare video in terms of giving you the hard and fast and hardcore rules of anti-aging skincare and why not having retinol in your skincare regimen is a big mistake. And again, my opinion, you could argue it, you could disagree with me completely, but it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard for you to argue against the studies and the empirical observational sort of things that you see when you talk to people who have lovely skin and have done so through topicals and sun protection and all that stuff. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, hit like if you enjoyed this. If you have comments or questions, drop them below and share them with some friends and family, and stay on to listen and watch more videos on the topic. And if you have some things you want to look for, chances are I've already probably had a video on it. So scroll through the playlist and have a look. Until next time, grateful for all of you. Dr. Amir Karam.